grab that old stand-up bass. Don't hit the drums and the fell back to place. Jams on the T-box, drums and the blues. Know we really rocked in his dancing shoes. Civil won't ride. Civil won't ride. Guns were loaded and the dudes were cocked. Lord have mercy, civil won't ride. Licking her the ruckers went down to D.C. Jumping free at the front of the cash to party. Crashing to the bottom, just right as the bell said he gave forever yelling. Civil won't ride. Civil won't ride. Guns were loaded and the triggers were cocked. Lord have mercy, it's a civil won't ride. Lord have mercy, it's a civil won't ride. Lord have mercy, it's a civil won't ride. Lord have mercy, it's a civil won't ride.
Johnny Reb and the Civil War Rock. I'm Fred Martino. Thanks so much for joining us on Newsmakers. And yes, as you can tell by the beginning of the show, we are having a little bit of fun today. Johnny Reb joins us in the studio now. Johnny, thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
And you are in costume for very good reason today. We are talking about a television show that you hope to produce. A lot of reality television shows out there, and you are pitching this around the country, a Civil War reality show that you will host.
Right.
Give us the idea of how you got the inspiration for this program.
Well, the inspiration for Sabres and Roses came from the Landon House, which I purchased in 1999 in Frederick, Maryland, which is a 250-year-old 12,000 square foot mansion.
The classic mansion, when we think of the southern United States and the Civil War, and we actually have some video of the Landon House that you shot for the program. This is a gorgeous home, and I imagine in restoring this, anybody would be inspired to share it with the world.
It's a fantastic place. It was on the market for 2.5 years. Nobody wanted it, and I guess you could say I was just insane enough to put everything into it. Took 2 years to restore it, and now we preserve it through a combination of doing weddings there and office space rentals. So it is being preserved.
Yeah, and makes a great setting for a TV show, right?
Perfect setting for this show, yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting, you were telling me before we went on the air that in addition to a reality television show, this house, because of the amazing history that it has, was also originally an inspiration for you to do a movie to share the historical significance of the home.
Yes, the house was the setting for what has become known as the Sabres and Roses Ball, which that's the painting that I brought you here.
I know you shared this with me.
And that's quite famous within Civil War circles. Of course, it's featuring the Landon House in the background. And what happened was Jeb Stuart, who was the commander of the Confederate Cavalry in early September of 1862, rode across from Virginia. This was all 10 days before the Battle of Antietam, and came across this historic, at that point it was an abandoned military academy called the Landon Military Academy and Institute. And when he saw the Landon House, or Landon Military Academy, he said, what a capital place for us to give a ball in honor of our arrival in Maryland. And so he invited all the local townspeople from Urbana to a ball the next night, and they decorated it with a lot of roses, and they put their sabers by the wall, and the 18th Mississippi Band came to play, which is one of the lines in the song.
Yeah.
So I mean, and this was the discrepancy here is that this very romantic end of the era kind of ball 10 days before what's still the bloodiest day in American history at Antietam.
And I guess it's that combination of history and this incredible interest in the Civil War all over this country and even across the world that really gave you the thought that this is something that folks would watch in a reality TV show format. I mean, you mentioned to me there are even reenactment groups in the UK and in Australia.
Yeah. I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon. And it can only be described as a subculture because it has its own fashion, its own art, its own language, its own music. I mean, there are people who really live in that period, and they come out to reenactments, and I'm sure there are many reenactments here in Michigan.
And for the contestants you've already gotten together for the pilot of the show, we can see in this video that we're going to see right now that you're not the only one in costume, that you get them in costume, and they really seem like they're having a great time. And I imagine that this must have been part of the challenge in putting this together, getting authentic costumes, and these certainly do remind us of what we know about the Civil War.
Well, what I think is really interesting, and why I think the show is going to be a smash hit, is because these are non-Civil War folks who are immersing themselves into 1862 and taking on roles that developed during the shoot. Mm-hmm. So when they came out of it, and they actually came back to, at that point, 2003, I mean, they were in shock. I mean, 15 of them came down from New York City, and they lived in, like in 18, I mean, we already shot the pilot, so that's what I'm promoting around the country.